Alison Kokani, and I'm the chair of the New South Wales Consumer Advisory Group, Mental Health. I've just got a couple of questions. Firstly, I have noticed in people out and about talking about this new scheme, they seem to have a few misconceptions about it, and they think that number one, it might be that they get the money to put in the bank and have to, make it stretch, which is obviously wrong. And the other thing is they think it's going to run out, and that once it runs out, what do they do then? Because they're left with no help and no nothing. So some of that might need to be clarified in your advertising of the scheme. And the other thing is with the service providers that people will be able to contract via that scheme, are they going to be accredited? And if so, by who? And are they also going to be abiding by federal, state laws, memorandums of understanding, national standards, all of those sorts of things, and be subject to scrutiny, as in inspections, and to make sure that they're actually doing the right thing by the users that are contracting them?
Great questions. Does anyone want to venture an answer? We have got a couple of minutes, so quick answers to very big questions.
I'll have a quick go at some of them. The point about the money running out and the point about having to make it stretch, I think, go to the governance of the scheme and the assessment of need. The scheme, if it spends more money than is expected, will clearly be under pressure. The whole idea of governance, information, monitoring is about making sure that the money doesn't run out. So the intention is that, as Fiona said, that it be entrenched in legislation that the Commonwealth has a responsibility to allocate to this money, to this scheme, a formula-based amount of money based on the assessed cost of the scheme, and that would happen every year. So the money, as close as you can get to a guarantee, the money would be guaranteed. In terms of service providers, I don't think there's a simple answer to your question, because we've clearly heard in the hearings and the submissions that people want a range of service providers. So the idea of contracting with a local neighbour or a person who is, the characteristics we heard that were most important for people in their service providers were attitude and aptitude. So what I think we'd be looking for is to service providers to build up those skills among their workers, and for a whole new industry of support to develop. I think for the larger organisations that become big service providers, there would be a requirement for them to meet the disability standards that have been agreed on in the National Disability Agreement.
I'd just like to add to that. Whilst there may be a case for accreditation with some agencies, I think the beauty of what's being proposed is its flexibility, and if it doesn't have that flexibility, then it's not going to actually be able to respond to what the individual needs and wants, and the way that the individual wants supports. So that, for example, one of my problems with what's being proposed is also the use of, or not being able, for example, to cash out. If you're assessed as needing a certain sort of therapy, not being able to cash out that. But I can see some real instances where you may want to cash that out, that say you're assessed for having 3 or 4 hours of support a week. You may want to be able to the therapeutic support a week, because it might be better for you if you're in a rural area or somewhere else that you actually get your therapy from a hydrotherapy pool and join the local gym, and that might actually be a much better solution than actually getting the therapy from professionals. So I think those sorts of if this scheme can deliver those sorts of really personalised sorts of solutions, we'd certainly be supporting that.
And look, can I just say, that's just one of those issues that the sector has to engage in us to provide the answers. We can't look. The Productivity Commission's given us the framework, and it's now for us to sort of put the detail around that. And there's an immense amount of evidence and knowledge in the sector, and that's one of the issues we'll certainly be looking at in those kind of really detailed, pragmatic issues at the In Control Australia event in Sydney on May the 10th and 11th. So look, we're running a bit late, but I do want to get to those two final questions. There's a gentleman here, down here. And then Lisa, and then I'll let you go for afternoon tea.
Scott Shepherd from Uniting Care Community Options. Thank you for the three presentations. They were fantastic. And I just wanted to support what Leslie said, that it doesn't matter how good the recommendations are and the system is that's recommended, government may not adopt it. So we have a responsibility to convince local MPs and the community that it is important and that it is worth investing in, so that I'd encourage everyone, again, as Leslie said, to get on the Every Australian Counts website to do that. But a question for John around its detail, but I just wanted to see if the Commission has thought about this along the lines that have just been said, and I'd welcome any other input from the other speakers, is around self-employment, and that's great, and fully endorse that as a service provider, that people should be able to choose and be able to self-manage and to employ their own workers and services. But what about protection in there? Some degree of regulation so that there's not a race to the bottom, so that the workers' rights are actually protected, as well as the person who's purchasing the services as well.
Yeah, look, I think that's a big question, and we have thought about it, and there is a bit in there about workers and supporting workers. We actually think that the transformation of the workforce from where it is now to where it needs to be, or perhaps will be encouraged to be, is a big transformation, almost as big as the transformation from people with disability to where they need to be. So, and ultimately, if the system is working as one would hope it would work, the employer and employee worker relationship is a pretty symbiotic sort of thing. I mean, the person is there to provide a support need, and that there should be an understanding there between those two people that make that as seamless as possible, and as harmonious as possible.
I'd also like to just say that there is an assumption in your question that workers in the present system are getting properly treated. And I think it's far from the reality. And I think that obviously, there are some people with disabilities who already employ their own workers and are doing it very well and treat their workers properly. And there are a lot of workers in the system who are being employed by service providers who are treated very poorly. And that's just not about the funding situation. So.
And can I add to that just very quickly? I think, and also the previous person's question, I think it'd be really great for people in this room also to do some deep thinking and hopefully put some submissions on the really complex area of employing family members and friends. I think it raises a whole range of issues of checks and balances and protections for both sides of the relationship. If you want to think laterally, there's been some really interesting work around home detention and imprisonment in that area where, people's roles are changed within the domestic sphere, particularly when legal responsibilities, not just payments, are involved in this.